July 10, 1944. A small airfield in occupied France. American mechanics are running final checks on a Vought F4U Corsair, one of the most feared fighter planes in the Pacific theater. Gull wing design, 2,000 horsepower. Top speed over 400 miles per hour. But something's wrong. Within hours, that plane will be in enemy hands. Not through combat, not through sabotage, but through one of the most audacious acts of deception in World War II. A German pilot is about to walk onto that airfield, climb into America's secret weapon, and fly it straight into the heart of Nazi Germany. This is the story of how the Third Reich nearly stole one of America's most advanced fighters and what happened when they got their hands on it. Before we understand what was stolen, we need to understand what made the F4U Corsair so valuable. The Pacific War is going badly for the United States. Japanese Zeros are dominating the skies. American pilots are dying in outdated aircraft that can't match the Zero's speed or maneuverability. The Navy needs something revolutionary. Something that can turn the tide. Vought aircraft delivers the Corsair. And it's unlike anything anyone's ever seen. That distinctive inverted gull wing isn't just for show, it's a solution to an engineering problem. The Corsair's massive 13-foot propeller needed ground clearance, but the Navy wanted short landing gear for carrier operations. The bent wing solved both problems. Genius, but here's what made it truly terrifying to face in combat: the Pratt & Whitney RT-800 double Wasp engine. 18 cylinders, 2,000 horsepower. This thing could climb faster, dive harder, and outrun almost anything in the sky. In the hands of a skilled pilot, the Corsair wasn't just a fighter, it was a predator. The Japanese called it whistling death because of the sound it made diving through the air. That wasn't a nickname you wanted your enemy to have for your plane, that was fear. By mid-1944, the Corsair is racking up kill ratios that seem impossible. 11-1 against Japanese fighters. Marine Corps squadrons in the Solomon Islands are becoming legends. And the Navy is finally working out the carrier landing issues that plagued early models, but there's a problem. The Corsair is so advanced, so strategically important, that it's being kept out of the European theater entirely. The thinking is simple. If one falls into German hands, their engineers might reverse engineer the technology. The Luftwaffe is already developing jet fighters. Imagine what they could do with American innovations. So, when Corsairs are shipped to Britain for testing and evaluation, they're kept under heavy guard. Mechanics are vetted. Access is restricted. The planes never leave Allied territory, until one does. Summer 1944, the Allies have landed at Normandy 5 weeks earlier. The front is pushing inland, but huge swaths of France remain under Nazi occupation. It's a chaotic patchwork of territory, liberated villages next to German strongholds, advancing American units by passing pockets of resistance. And somewhere in this mess, military intelligence makes a catastrophic mistake. A small detachment of U.S. Navy personnel is operating an advanced airfield in recently liberated territory. They're testing various aircraft for combat readiness, including against all protocol to F4U Corsairs. Why their remains classified to this day. Some historians believe it was a secret evaluation for possible European deployment. Others think it was simply bureaucratic chaos in the fog of war. Whatever the reason, those Corsairs are sitting on a vulnerable airfield in contested territory. And German intelligence knows about it. Here's where our protagonist enters the story. His real name has been lost to history, or more likely, deliberately erased from records. What we know comes from fragmented Allied intelligence reports and post-war interrogations. Let's call him what the reports do. Subject K. Subject K is a Luftwaffe pilot. Not just any pilot, a veteran with over 300 combat missions. He's flown Messerschmitts over Britain, Focke-Wulfs on the Eastern Front. He's a true believer in the Third Reich, but he's also a pragmatist. By July 1944, he knows Germany is losing. The question isn't if, but when. But he's been given one final mission, one that might change everything. German intelligence has been tracking Allied aircraft movements through a network of informants. They know about the Corsairs, they know the airfield's defenses are light, and they have a plan that sounds absolutely insane. Subject K is going to steal one. Not by attacking the airfield too risky, too many variables. Instead, he's going to walk right in broad daylight, wearing an American uniform. Let me explain how this was even possible. The French resistance has been capturing German soldiers for months. Among them are intelligence officers carrying documents, uniforms, identification papers. Some of this material makes its way to German counterintelligence. They've been studying American military protocols, learning radio procedures, memorizing unit designations. Subject K has been preparing for 3 weeks. He's memorized a cover story. He's a Navy test pilot, transferred from Britain, here to evaluate the Corsair's combat readiness. He's practiced his English accent with recordings from captured American pilots. He's studied every detail of the Corsair's cockpit from reconnaissance photographs. On paper, it shouldn't work. There are too many variables. Too many chances for exposure, but war creates chaos. And chaos creates opportunity. July 10, 1944, 0600 hours. Subject K is in a stolen Jeep, driving toward the American airfield. He's wearing a perfectly tailored U.S. Navy uniform. His forged papers identify him as Lieutenant James Mackenzie, attached to a testing squadron in Norfolk. The papers are good, exceptionally good. German forgers have been practicing on captured documents for years. His heart is racing, but his face is calm. He's been in combat hundreds of times, but this is different. In the air, you control your fate. On the ground, walking into an enemy base, you're completely vulnerable. The airfield comes into view. It's small, just one runway, a few temporary structures, some tents. Maybe 20 personnel total. This isn't a major installation. It's a forward testing site, deliberately kept low profile. That's exactly why it was chosen. Subject K approaches the gate. A young American MP, maybe 19, 20 years old, steps out to check his papers. This is the moment. If the papers don't pass inspection, if his accent slips, if someone asks the wrong question, it's over. The MP studies the documents. Looks up at Subject K, back to the documents. Lieutenant Mackenzie. That's right. Subject K's English is good. Not perfect, but good enough. He's banking on the fact that the American military is a melting pot, regional accents, first-generation immigrants, soldiers from every corner of the country. What brings you out here, sir? Corsair evaluation. Supposed to run some tests, file a report back to Norfolk. He says it casually, like he's done this 100 times. The MP nods. Yeah. We got word someone might be coming. Been waiting a few days, though. We were starting to think supply convoy got delayed. Subject K interrupts. You know how it is. The MP laughs. Tell me about it. All right, sir, you're clear. Flight lines that way. Chief Peterson will get you sorted. Just like that, he's in. Subject K drives slowly toward the flight line, forcing himself to breathe normally. There they are. The Corsairs, parked side by side, their distinctive bent wings catching the morning light. He parks the Jeep and approaches on foot. A mechanic, presumably Chief Peterson, is checking one of the planes. Chief Peterson, the mechanic, looks up, wipes his hands on a rag. That's me. You, the test pilot they said might show up. Lieutenant Mackenzie. Sorry, I'm late. Had some delays. Peterson shrugs. Sal, right? These birds are ready to go whenever you are. You familiar with the Corsair? Subject K nods. Done about 40 hours in them back in Norfolk. Beautiful machines. This is the dangerous part. Peterson is an expert. He'll know immediately if Subject K doesn't understand the aircraft, but Subject K has done his homework. He's studied every manual, every specification, every quirk German intelligence could provide. Want to do a walk around? Peterson asks. Absolutely. This is the dangerous part. Peterson is an expert. He'll know immediately if Subject K doesn't understand the aircraft. but Subject K has done his homework. Subject K asks smart questions, the kind of questions a real test pilot would ask. He comments on the engine temperature, the tire pressure, the control surface response. Peterson is satisfied. This guy knows his stuff. She's all yours, Lieutenant. Just bring her back in one piece. Subject K allows himself a small smile. Will do, Chief. He climbs into the cockpit. This is it. This is the moment 3 weeks of planning have built toward. The cockpit is exactly as the photographs showed. Stick, throttle, instrument panel. But photographs can't convey the reality, the smell of aviation fuel and oil, the cramped space, the weight of the parachute harness. His hands move through the startup sequence, battery on, fuel mixture rich. Magnetos check. Primer. He signals to Peterson. The mechanic gives a thumbs up. Subject K hits the starter. The R-800 engine roars to life with a sound like controlled thunder. The entire aircraft vibrates. He can feel the power through the stick, through the rudder pedals, through his entire body. This is really happening. He runs through the pre-flight checks, everything by the book. Can't rush it, can't look suspicious. Peterson is watching from the ground, making sure everything's correct. Finally, Subject K radios the tower. Tower, this is Navy test flight requesting clearance for takeoff. Navy test flight, you're cleared, winds light and variable. Have a good flight. He taxis to the runway, lines up. Takes one last look at the American airfield he's about to leave behind, throttle forward. The Corsair accelerates like nothing he's ever flown. The Germans have powerful fighters, the FW-190, the Bf-109, but this is different. This is raw, overwhelming force, airspeed building, 60 knots. 80, 100. He pulls back on the stick, the Corsair leaps into the air. And just like that, Subject K, a German pilot in an American uniform, is flying one of the most advanced fighters in the world toward Nazi Germany. For the first few minutes, Subject K flies exactly according to plan. He heads east at low altitude, following a route intelligence has mapped out. The idea is to stay below radar coverage, avoid Allied patrols, and cross into German-held territory before anyone realizes what's happening. But about 10 minutes into the flight, something changes. He's never felt anything like this aircraft. The responsiveness, the power, the engineering perfection. This isn't just a fighter plane, it's a glimpse into the future. German aircraft are good, some of the best in the world, but they're products of a nation running out of resources, making compromises, cutting corners. This Corsair represents what an industrial giant can build when it has unlimited resources and the best engineers in the world. For just a moment, Subject K understands why Germany is losing. But he pushes the thought away. He has a mission. He's crossing into contested territory now, the landscape below a patchwork of destroyed villages and artillery craters. Any minute, someone at that airfield is going to realize something's wrong. That Lieutenant Mackenzie's test flight has gone on too long. That he's not responding to radio calls, and when they do, Allied fighters will scramble. He pushes the throttle forward, accelerating to 350 miles per hour. The Corsair responds instantly, the engine roaring with that distinctive sound the Japanese call whistling death. The German front line is close now. Maybe 15 miles, if he can just, unidentified Corsair, this is Allied patrol. You are flying in contested airspace. State your intentions, over. Subject K's blood runs cold. He glances up and back. To P-51 Mustangs, high and to his left, beginning to descend toward him, they haven't opened fire. They think he's lost or confused or having radio trouble. He has seconds to decide. If he responds, they'll hear his accent, they'll order him to land, to follow them back. If he doesn't respond, they'll assume he's hostile. Subject K makes his choice. He banks hard right, diving toward the deck, pushing the Corsair to its limits. The Mustangs react immediately, rolling to pursue. Now it's a chase. The P-51s are fast, 390 miles per hour maximum speed. But the Corsair can hit for 117 in level flight. Subject K has the advantage. But the Mustangs are higher, trading altitude for speed, closing the gap. He's weaving through valleys now, using terrain to break line of sight. The German lines are close, maybe 5 miles. The Mustang pilots are shouting over the radio, demanding he respond, threatening to fire. For miles, the Mustangs are right behind him now, maybe 300 yards back. Any second, they'll open fire, 3 miles. Subject K sees at a German anti-aircraft position, its 88mm guns tracking the fighters. If he can just 2 miles, the Mustangs open fire. Tracers streak past his canopy. A few rounds hit the Corsair's tail section, 1 mile. The German guns open fire not at him but at the Mustangs, flak bursts in black clouds. The P-51s break off immediately, banking hard to avoid the AA fire. Subject K crosses the German lines. He's made it. Subject K lands at a Luftwaffe base in eastern France. German personnel swarm the Corsair immediately, soldiers, officers, engineers. They can't believe what they're seeing. Within hours, the aircraft is surrounded by technicians taking measurements, photographs, notes. Pilots are studying the cockpit layout. Engineers are examining the engine, the weapons systems, the control surfaces. This is an intelligence coup of the highest order. But here's what's fascinating. The Corsair doesn't change the war. In fact, it barely impacts German aircraft development at all. Why? By July 1944, Germany is losing on every front. The industrial capacity to actually implement new designs doesn't exist. Factories are being bombed around the clock, resources are scarce. Experienced engineers are being drafted or killed. The Corsair is studied, documented, test-flown by German pilots who marvel at its capabilities, but it arrives too late to matter. There's also a practical problem. The Corsair is designed around American industrial methods and American resources. The R-800 engine uses high-octane fuel Germany can't produce. The manufacturing tolerances require precision Germany's bombed-out factories can't maintain. You can't just copy a Corsair and expect it to work in a completely different industrial ecosystem. The intelligence reports make their way to German high command, where they're read, filed, and ultimately forgotten in the chaos of the collapsing Reich. As for Subject K, his fate is uncertain. Some reports suggest he was killed later that summer when his base was overrun by Allied forces. Others claim he survived the war and disappeared into the chaos of post-war Europe. The Corsair itself was destroyed, some accounts say by Allied bombing, others that it was deliberately scuttled by retreating German forces. Back at that American airfield, there was panic when Lieutenant Mackenzie didn't return. When they realized what had happened, that a German pilot had walked onto their base, stolen their aircraft, and flown it to enemy territory, heads rolled. The incident was immediately classified. Officers were reassigned, personnel were sworn to secrecy. For decades, it remained buried in classified files. So, what does this story really tell us? On one level, it's an incredible tale of deception, courage, and audacity. Subject K pulled off something that shouldn't have been possible, walking into an enemy installation and stealing one of their most advanced weapons. But on a deeper level, it's a story about the limits of technology. The Corsair was an extraordinary machine. In the Pacific, it helped turn the tide of the war. But by itself, isolated from the industrial system that created it, separated from the training, tactics, and resources that made it effective, it was just a very good airplane. Wars aren't won by secret weapons or stolen technology. They're won by logistics, industrial capacity, trained personnel, and strategic vision. Germany had lost those battles long before Subject K climbed into that cockpit. The Corsair would go on to become a legend. It fought in the Pacific, served through the Korean War, and became one of the most successful fighter designs in history. Thousands were built. Countless pilots trusted their lives to its bent wings and powerful engine. But that one Corsair stolen on a July morning in occupied France became a footnote, a classified incident, a story buried in secret files. Until now, the F4U Corsair represents American engineering at its finest. But Subject K's theft represents something equally important, the fact that in war, human audacity can sometimes achieve what entire armies cannot. For 3 weeks in 1944, a German pilot studied, prepared, and executed a plan so bold it bordered on insanity. And for a few hours, flying low over the French countryside in a stolen American fighter, he succeeded. It didn't change the war. It didn't save the Third Reich, but it did prove that sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't technology. It's the willingness to attempt the impossible. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of World War II's most unusual incidents, hit that like button and subscribe for more forgotten stories from history. Drop a comment and let me know what other classified incidents from the war should I cover next. And remember, history isn't just about the battles everyone knows. Sometimes the most incredible stories are the ones that were buried on purpose. See you in the next one.